Today on Colin's Garage, we're going to show you how to install AN fittings onto braided AN line. So we're going to take the AN line from a cut AN line to an installed fitting. I'm going to show you the easiest, most efficient way to do it so you can get it done the first time and not have to hassle with the fitting and mess around. One of the most difficult parts about working with AN line is cutting it. What I've found over the years is using like an angle grinder and stuff of that nature works. However, it frays the line and it doesn't cut evenly. From what I've found, the easiest way to do it is with some really good shears made to cut it. And these are just some Mocal shears I got at the local fitting store, but you can find these at like Home Depot or Lowe's, and they're made to cut tree branches, like really thick, like 1-inch thick tree branches. This particular set works really good up to like 8 AN, maybe even 10 AN. But if you look here, you can see if we go to cut it, it cuts evenly, and you can basically just do it in one shot, and it gets a nice square end on it. So I'm just trying to hold it with my elbow to show you how square you can get it, and then you basically just pull really tight and it becomes square. There we go. If you can see, it gives it a nice square face, and it cuts it relatively good. Now if you don't have this any type of shears, you can still do it. You just got to do it with like an angle grinder and some tape. Let me go ahead and show you that method too. So if you're using an angle grinder, you simply want to take some painter's tape, some blue painter's tape or whatever color masking tape. It could be, you know, manila or whatever the color is, and just wrap it tightly around the hose. Let me see if I can get this camera to focus. There we go. Wrap it tightly as you can. I like to rotate the hose around the tape. This makes it as tight as I need to get it. And then just go ahead and cut some off there. You only need 1 or 2 wraps, but this is just essentially to prevent the hose from fraying. Let me see if I can get it to focus. There we go. This is to prevent the hose from fraying. And when you cut it, you want to cut normal to the hose, perpendicular to the hose. That way it gets a nice square cut. So when you're inserting your fitting, it goes in and you have a nice square. It fits very square against the end of this collar right here. Let me go ahead and show you how to do this real quick. Again, I don't recommend using the angle grinder to cut, you know, braided line, but if you don't have shears from Home Depot or, you know, the fitting place, just go ahead and use it. If that's what you have, that's what you need to do. Let's go ahead and show you how to do it real quick. Okay, we have our angle grinder plugged in. We have our eyeglasses on. This is the most important part. You don't ever want to sacrifice your safety or your eyes for some stupid hose that you're going to put on some stupid race car. So go ahead and get this chucked up pretty good. And like I said, you want the painter's tape to basically, the masking tape to be tight around the hose. And this is only to prevent fraying. So get nice and normal to the line. And you want to make a good clean cut as close to the jaws as you can without kind of distorting the hose as you're pushing in with the grinder. It's going to be very loud. Alright, we're going to go ahead and cut this real quick for you, show you how to do it. It's always keen to get the sparks shooting down away from your face. Makes it easier to see stuff when you're kind of doing stuff at this nature. So it gives you a nice clean cut and very little fraying at the end. Let's see if we can get a close-up of this. As you can see, even with an angle grinder, we were able to get a nice clean cut, something that's decent, that's almost perpendicular to what you're doing here. Another negative of using an angle grinder is you get a lot of debris inside the hose. You have to clean the hose out meticulously before putting it into service with any oil or fuel or anything for that matter. You don't want any debris to be into in the hose. And that's pretty much it. From then on, you follow the rest of the steps of you know, putting the fitting on and going from there. First things first, it always helps to have the right tools and equipment to get the job done appropriately. These jaws right here are basically like an aluminum jaw for grabbing onto the fitting end. So although there are more videos online about how to do this and whatnot, we're just going to show you a quick way to get these on without messing up the hose or the fitting. If you don't have these you know, vice chucks right here, these jaw guards, you can still do it very easily. You just have to use like a piece of leather or something like that to kind of put over the jaw to not mess up the fitting. So I'm gonna go ahead and set up the camera and make one for you guys real quick here. First things first, you want to go ahead and separate the fitting to where you have the swivel AN piece, whether it's 6AN, 8AN, 10AN, 12AN, whatever it is, and separate these two pieces right here. And you're going to insert the line, the braided line into this fitting first. And I like to go ahead and do that on the side of the jaws right here. So we're just going to go ahead and hold this right here on the side of the jaws. Let me go ahead and zoom in on that real quick. And at this point, you don't want to add any type of oil or anything like that. You just want to insert it in there. Just make sure your vise is nice and clamped down pretty hard, and get normal to or perpendicular to the vise with your hand, and kind of, you know, go straight in with a twisting motion just like this. Make sure you're nice and secured, and go in until it stops. It's going to require a decent amount of force, so you got to make sure your fitting's not going to go anywhere. Make sure, most importantly, this doesn't move, obviously, when you're kind of putting that in. And like I said, these jaw chucks, these jaw guards, are actually magnetic on one side, and they have a groove kind of machined into them on the other side here. There's several machine grooves, but it just makes it for a really easy installation. So that's the first step. You want to get it to where you have the AN line, you know, in as far as you can get it. And if you look inside the hose right here, it's very hard to see. Let's see if we can get the light. But basically, you want the hose to stay concentric. That's the most difficult part about installing these lines, is when you go to put this piece into this hose right here, what happens is it sometimes pushes the hose out as you're inserting, as you're screwing this in, and the hose will actually separate out like this. But what we're going to show you is a little trick to kind of make sure it stays nice and concentric in there. What we do is we actually put a little bit of oil on this this little, I think it's a little punch here that we have, but any assembly lube or a light motor oil will work. You basically shove it on the inside of here and make sure that that rubber hose stays concentric with the line right there, and then it just makes it very easy to kind of install the AN fitting. And this is something you don't figure out until you do half a dozen of these, and the first 3 of them kind of catch and push themselves out. So now that you get it nice and concentric, I don't know if you can see in there. Now it's very hard to see since it's all very dark and black in there, but as you can see, it's really nice and concentric. Also, the oil kind of lubes it up, helps it go in first time. So here we go. Alright, now that we have the camera zoomed out, we can go ahead and finish the install real quick here. Alright, so we have the fitting on here. We're going to go ahead and re-chuck this up. We're going to do it actually facing upward. This is easy for a number of reasons, but we do this that way when we're installing the swivel head. We can go ahead and basically use a common wrench, or if you have an AN set of wrenches, this is the time to use it. But we're going to go ahead and make sure there's enough oil on there to kind of lube this up and make it easy to install the first time. So I'm just going to go ahead and double check it one more time, push that in just like that, get it nice and open. Then we're going to go ahead and throw some assembly lube right onto the tip of this piece right here, and this is going to make it dramatically easier to push this in. So it's a rubber on aluminum type of situation here. We want to make it as easy to put together as possible. So this beginning part you can do with your fingers. There's going to be a point where it gets difficult and you can't kind of do it with your fingers anymore. Another thing, you see that I'm holding it down here with my hand. I'm just basically checking to make sure that the hose is not spinning while I'm kind of threading this top swivel head in. Next step is, once you can't do it with your fingers anymore, you go ahead and get your wrench, whether it's an Allen wrench or just a crescent wrench like what I got, and you go ahead and basically start tightening it down. There we go. Start tightening it down. And you want to make sure that down here that this does not come out as you're pushing it down. And if you have enough, lubrication on the inside of the hose and on the end of that swivel bar, it shouldn't push that hose out, and it should go on first try, which we have success right now. So you're going to tighten it until it's relatively tight, and that means until you basically can't spin it anymore with a decent amount of force. And that's about it. So once you got a decent amount of force on there, you can't spin it anymore, just go ahead and do one last check. You want to go ahead and try to pull it apart now that you have it assembled. This swivels freely. You want to go ahead and try to pull it apart, make sure you did your job good with getting it all the way in there, and sure enough, both sides with a decent amount of force don't come apart. That's how you know you have a good fully assembled hose. So there you have it. That's how you assemble a basic AN line. I'm Brett with Colin's Garage, and feel free to subscribe down below for more helpful videos like this. And if you want to see us do some drifting and do some installs on race cars and whatnot, just go ahead and hit subscribe and share this with your friends. If you found this helpful, we're going to be doing more stuff like this in the future. Thanks again, and look forward to doing some more here soon.